Reciprocity rates. Title: The Captain's Favor. Everett Wyman woke to the soft chime of his videocom, groggy and half buried in his blankets. He blinked at the screen, then smiled as it flickered to life. "Good morning, Everett," said the man on the other end, Captain Darren. Everett sat up, rubbing his eyes. "Morning, Uncle. How are you?" "I've been better," Darren admitted, though there was a familiar spark behind his eyes. "I need a favor. My interstellar cruise ship, the Darling Siren, just lost an engineer. I need someone competent, someone I trust." Everett sighed, already knowing where this was going. "How long?" 6 months. 6 months? Everett leaned back. "That's a long time. We'll be stopping at 50 planets, 2,000 passengers on board. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important." Everett paused, then smiled softly. "You helped me get my home on Lumiere 6. I owe you. When do we leave?" 3 days. "Of course we do." The next morning, Everett walked up the stone path to his neighbor's house, a sturdy cobblestone structure that looked like it could survive a meteor strike. He knocked. The door opened to reveal Cicerin, 8 feet tall, scaled, and vaguely reminiscent of a Komodo dragon that had decided to stand upright and learn English. "Good morning, Everett," Cicerin hissed pleasantly. "How can I help you, neighbor?" "I've got a job off-world for 6 months," Everett said. "Think you could watch my place? Help yourself to anything in the garden or freezer." Cicerin gave a slow, approving nod. "I would gladly do this for you, my friend." "Thanks. When I get back, dinner's on me, you and your wife." Cicerin's tail gave a subtle, pleased flick. "We will hold you to that." 3 days later, Everett stood at the spaceport, staring up at the Darling Siren. It was massive, sleek silver curves, glowing blue thrusters, and enough windows to make it feel less like a ship and more like a floating city. "Good morning, Everett," Captain Darren said, stepping up beside him. Everett straightened immediately. "Good morning, Captain." Darren smirked slightly at the shift in tone. "Still can't help yourself, huh?" "Not in uniform, sir." After settling into his quarters and changing into formal wear, Everett joined the captain at the boarding entrance. For 2 hours, they greeted passengers from a dozen different worlds. By the end of it, Everett's stomach was staging a rebellion. "Captain," he muttered, still smiling at a passing guest, "I am starving." "Same," Darren replied under his breath. "Go get us something quick. Kitchen's under new management, though. Head chef doesn't like people wandering in." Everett smirked. "I'll risk it." "Oh, I'm counting on it," Darren said quietly, almost too quietly. Everett stepped into the kitchen and promptly forgot how to function. Standing at the counter was a woman with light tan skin, long black hair, and fox ears. A long, elegant foxtail swayed gently behind her as she worked. Her amber eyes had a faint glow, catching the light as she assembled 2 sandwiches with effortless precision. Everett stared, hard. She didn't even turn around. "Close your mouth," she said, a smile in her voice. "You're about to drool on my floor." Everett snapped his jaw shut. Sorry, I was just thinking." "Sure you were," she said, glancing at him with a playful grin. There was a pause. Then, "You're Everett, the captain's engineering nephew." He blinked. "He talks about me?" "Constantly," she said. "I'm Seraphine Fay." Everett smiled. "That's a beautiful name." Seraphine's ears twitched slightly. "Thank you." She handed him the sandwiches. "Now go, before your captain gets hangry." Everett chuckled. "Yes, chef." "Don't call me that unless you mean it," she shot back, though she was smiling. Dinner that night was overwhelming. Hundreds of passengers filled the dining hall, a blend of species, languages, and aromas. The food ranged from familiar to completely unidentifiable. Everett found Captain Darren sitting alone. "Just you tonight?" Everett asked. "For now," Darren said casually, then nodded toward the far side of the room. "Looks like someone's waving at you." Everett turned. "Seraphine," he smiled. "I'll catch up with you later, Uncle." "Oh, I'm sure you will," Darren murmured. Seraphine had changed out of her chef's uniform. Now she wore black pants and a deep red blouse that made her amber eyes stand out even more. "Mind if I join you?" Everett asked. "Please do." He sat, smiling. "You look really nice tonight." Seraphine's ears dipped slightly as a blush spread across her cheeks. "Thank you." Everett took a bite of the food and froze. His eyes widened, then rolled back slightly in pure bliss. "This is incredible," he said. "No, seriously, this might be the best thing I've ever eaten." Seraphine laughed softly. "Careful, I might start expecting that reaction every time. Then I'll just have to keep delivering." Later, Everett leaned forward slightly. The ballroom opens at 8. Would you want to go with me? Seraphine smiled. I'd like that. The ballroom glowed with soft light, music drifting through the air from a live band. Do you know how to dance? Seraphine asked. Everett grinned. Well enough not to embarrass myself. Hopefully. Good enough. He held out his hand. She took it. On the dance floor, Everett placed his hands gently at her waist while she rested hers around his neck. They swayed together, slowly finding a rhythm. He looked into her eyes and noticed her tail. It was swaying quickly behind her. He smiled. I've never seen it move like that before. Seraphine immediately blushed. Don't mind it. It has a mind of its own. I think it's cute. Her ears flicked. You're going to make this difficult, aren't you? Probably, he said with a grin. Hours passed without either of them noticing. Last dance of the night, the band called. Everett blinked. Wait, we've been dancing this whole time? Seraphine laughed softly. I think we have, he chuckled. At this point, I wouldn't be surprised if the music stopped hours ago and we just kept going. She didn't let go. I wouldn't have minded. Part 2, The Place by the Stove. Everett didn't sleep much that night, not because he couldn't, because he didn't want to. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw amber, felt warmth. He could still feel where Seraphine's hands had rested behind his neck, like the memory had weight to it. Yeah, he muttered into his pillow. 6 months is going to be a problem. Morning. Engine deck reality returned fast. The engine room of the Darling Siren was a cathedral of humming machinery, layered systems, glowing conduits, and enough moving parts to make most people dizzy. To Everett, it was home. He slid under a console, tightening a magnetic coupling with practiced precision. Stabilizers are running a little hot, he muttered. We'll fix that. A voice crackled over his comm. Engineer Wyman. Everett smirked slightly. Yes, Captain? I need you to perform a routine inspection. Of, a pause, the kitchen. Everett froze. Sir, head chef needs mechanical clearance on her equipment. Does she know that? She will. Click. Everett slowly slid out from under the console, wiping grease from his hands. You're not subtle, Uncle. The kitchen. The kitchen was already alive. Steam curled through the air, knives moved in rhythmic precision. Multiple species worked in synchronized chaos that somehow wasn't chaotic at all. And at the center of it, Seraphine. She was issuing instructions, adjusting seasoning, correcting plating, all while moving with a kind of effortless grace. Everett leaned casually against the doorway. She didn't look up. You're staring again, she said. I am not. You are. Okay, a little. That got a small smile out of her. What do you need, engineer? She asked, finally turning toward him. He held up his comm. Captain says I'm here for a kitchen inspection. She stared at him, then slowly crossed her arms. He did he? Those were his exact words. Her tail flicked once. Fine. Inspect something. Everett looked around, pretending to think very hard. That oven looks suspicious. It's brand new. Exactly. Can't trust new things. Seraphine snorted softly. You're terrible at this. Yeah, I'm not here for the oven. I figured. There was a brief pause. Then she nudged something with her foot. A stool. Simple. Metal frame. Slightly worn seat. Set just off to the side of her main prep station. Inspection station? Everett asked. Don't make it weird, she said. He smiled and sat. Their place. It became a routine faster than either of them expected. Every day, sometimes twice, Everett would be sent to the kitchen. Sometimes with an excuse, sometimes without one, and every time, that stool would be waiting. Careful, Seraphine said one afternoon, not looking up from her cutting board. If you keep showing up like this, people are going to think you actually work here. Everett leaned back slightly on the stool. I mean, I do bring morale. Oh, is that what you call it? Absolutely. Emotional support engineer. She glanced at him, amused. Is that a real position? It is now. Her tail swayed lazily behind her. He noticed. He always noticed. Some days were quiet, comfortable silence, the sound of chopping, sizzling, distant chatter. Other days, you didn't just put that much spice in there. It's balanced. That's not balanced. That's a war crime. It's a flavor experience. That's what people say before someone cries. Seraphine laughed, a full, unguarded laugh that made Everett grin like an idiot. Captain Darren's subtlety. One day, Everett walked into the kitchen holding a data pad. Seraphine raised an eyebrow. What's the excuse today? He checked the pad. Thermal variance analysis of soup. She stared at him. Soup. Very important system. Critical. Ship could explode. She walked over, took the datapad, and glanced at it. Then looked back at him. This just says go talk to her. Everett groaned. He's not even trying anymore. Seraphine's ears flicked with amusement. Your uncle is very invested in his ship. Yeah, Everett said. His ship. Their eyes met. Neither looked away right away. The shift, it happened gradually, then all at once. One quieter cycle, the kitchen had thinned out. Most of the staff had rotated off shift, leaving only a few distant figures. Seraphine was slower that day, quieter. Her movements lacked their usual spark. Everett noticed immediately. Hey, he said softly. No response. Seraphine. She paused. Yeah? He leaned forward slightly. You okay? She kept her eyes on the cutting board. Just tired. That's not it. A long silence. Her tail wasn't moving, at all. You don't have to tell me, Everett added gently. But you don't have to pretend either. The knife stopped, completely. She set it down. Do you know why I specialize in human and vulpine cuisine? She asked quietly. Because you're really good at it? A faint smile, gone quickly. Because most other species won't eat food prepared by someone like me. Everett blinked. What? She finally looked at him. Those amber eyes weren't glowing now. Vulpines have a reputation, emotional, unpredictable, too instinct-driven. Her ears lowered slightly. Some think we contaminate food, that we're unsanitary. Everett sat up straight. That's normal, she interrupted. It's normal. No, it's not. She let out a quiet breath. You get used to it. You build where you're allowed. You stay where people accept you. Her gaze dropped. This ship is one of the few places I don't have to fight for that. Silence filled the space between them, heavy, honest. HFY moment, Everett stood. Not dramatically, not angrily, just stood. Okay, he said. Seraphine blinked. Okay, what? He walked over to the main kitchen console. Everett, what are you doing? He tapped into the system. Override codes. Engineering clearance. Ship-wide access. Everett, give me a second. The intercom crackled. Then, attention all passengers and crew. Everett's voice rang through the ship. Seraphine's eyes widened. What are you doing? He didn't look at her. This is Engineer Everett Wyman. I just want to take a moment to talk about something important. Across the ship, conversations paused. I've had the privilege of working closely with the head chef of this vessel. Seraphine froze. And I want to make something very clear. His voice didn't waver. The best meal I have ever had in my life, across any planet, came from her kitchen. Silence. She is the most talented chef on this ship, maybe any ship. Seraphine's hands trembled slightly. And if anyone here thinks otherwise because of what she is instead of who she is. Now there was steel in his voice. You're welcome to take it up with me, personally. A pause. Then, softer. But you'd be wrong. Click. The intercom cut. The kitchen was silent, completely silent. Seraphine stared at him. You just broadcast that to 2,000 passengers. Yep, and multiple species who outrank you socially, politically, and possibly physically. Also, yep. You could get in serious trouble. Everett shrugged slightly. Worth it. She stepped toward him, slowly. Why? The question wasn't simple. It wasn't casual. Everett met her eyes. Because it's true. A beat. And because you shouldn't have to feel like that. Her ears trembled. Her tail moved, slow at first, then wrapped around his arm, tightly. You're an idiot, she whispered. Yeah, I've been told. A very human idiot, he smiled softly. Guilty. After the next day, the kitchen was packed. More than usual, different species, new faces, trying food, asking questions, coming back for seconds. Seraphine stood at the center of it, overwhelmed. What did you do? She murmured. Everett on his stool grinned. Just gave people a reason to try. She looked at him, really looked at him. Something had changed, not just attraction, not just comfort. Something deeper, something rooted. Her tail flicked toward him again, and this time she didn't pull it back. Captain Darren. From an upper deck, Captain Darren watched through a viewing panel. A crew member stepped beside him. Sir, did you authorize that announcement yesterday? Darren clasped his hands behind his back. No. A small smile formed. But I'm very glad he made it. Back in the kitchen, Everett leaned back on the stool. Busy day. Seraphine stepped closer. Stay after your shift. He raised an eyebrow. Oh? She smiled, soft, a little nervous. I want to cook something just for you, he grinned. I think I can make time for that. Her tail swayed, slow, warm, certain. Good. Part 2 continued. A Song Across Time. Dinner had finally slowed. Not ended, never fully ended on a ship like the Darling Siren, but softened into a gentle hum instead of a storm. Seraphine stepped out from the kitchen, rolling her shoulders slightly, exhaustion mixing with satisfaction. "I think that was the busiest cycle yet," she murmured. From his usual place leaning against the wall nearby, Everett smiled. "You handled it like a pro." She glanced at him. "You say that every time." "Because it's true every time." Her ears flicked, a small smile forming. "Walk with me?" Everett asked. She tilted her head slightly. "Where to?" "You'll see." That was all he said, and for some reason, she followed. The music hall. The music hall was quieter than the ballroom. Smaller, warmer. Dim lighting, polished wood, and a stage framed by soft amber lights. A few instruments rested nearby, decorative to some, functional to others. Seraphine looked around. "I haven't spent much time here." Everett nodded. "Yeah, most people go for the ballroom." He gently guided her toward a chair near the front. "Sit here," he said. She raised an eyebrow. "You're being mysterious." "Just trust me." "That's becoming a habit." Still, she sat. Everett walked toward the stage. Seraphine watched, curiosity growing. He stepped up, exchanged a few quiet words with one of the attendants, and picked up an instrument. A guitar, but not like the standard interstellar variants. Simpler, wooden, classic. He turned, walked to the edge of the stage, and sat down, legs dangling over the side. Seraphine blinked. "Everett?" He looked at her and smiled. "You said you liked my music," he said. "Figured I'd do it properly." Her ears lifted slightly. "You're going to play?" "Yeah." He adjusted the guitar, fingers settling into place like they belonged there. "For the record," he added, "these songs are about 1,500 years old." Seraphine leaned forward slightly, completely focused now. "Then I think they're overdue to be heard again." The first song. The first notes were soft, gentle, warm, the kind of sound that didn't just fill a room, but held it. Seraphine stilled, completely. Then Everett began to sing. His voice wasn't just good. It was real. Not overly polished, not synthetic, human, rich with emotion in a way that felt unfiltered. He didn't look at the room, didn't look at the stage. He looked at her. Every word carried across the quiet hall like it was meant for one person, and one person only. Seraphine felt her chest tighten. Her tail curled slightly around the leg of the chair. She didn't understand every cultural reference, didn't know the original artist, but she understood the feeling, the longing, the warmth, the sincerity. It was overwhelming. Between songs, the last note lingered, then faded. Silence followed. Seraphine realized she hadn't moved, had barely even breathed. "Everett," she whispered. He chuckled softly. "That bad, huh?" Her ears snapped up. No, it was..." She stopped, struggled for the word. "Beautiful." He smiled. "Good, that's the goal." He shifted slightly, adjusting his grip on the guitar. "I used to listen to these growing up," he said. "Old Earth music, back when people recorded things a lot more simply." She watched him, completely absorbed. "They didn't have all the tech we do now," he continued. "So what you heard, that was just them, their voice, their feeling." His fingers brushed the strings again, softly. "And I always liked that." The second song, this one was slower, softer, more intimate. His voice dropped just slightly, like he wasn't performing anymore. Just sharing. Seraphine's ears slowly lowered. Not in sadness, in vulnerability. Her tail moved gently behind her, slower than before, almost like it was swaying to the rhythm. Her eyes never left him, and his never left hers. The moment by the third song, she understood. This wasn't just music. This was him. Every note, every lyric, every glance. It wasn't random. It wasn't casual. It was intentional, and it was directed at her. Her breath caught. "Why?" she asked softly, almost afraid of the answer. The song ended. Everett let the final chord fade into silence. Then he looked at her, really looked at her. "Because I don't have your cooking," he said gently. She blinked. "What?" He smiled faintly. "You express yourself through food, through what you make." A small pause. "This is how I do it." Seraphine's chest tightened again, harder this time. Harder this time. Closing the distance, Everett stood, stepping off the stage. The guitar was set aside, forgotten for the moment. He walked toward her, slowly. No rush, no pressure, just present. Seraphine stood as he approached. "You've been doing that this whole time," she said quietly. "Doing what?" "Telling me things without saying them directly." He tilted his head slightly. "Am I that obvious?" "Only if someone is listening." They stood close now, not touching. but close enough to feel the warmth between them. Her tail swayed once, twice, then gently brushed against his leg. "I heard you," she said. Everett's expression softened. "Good." A quiet after. They didn't rush away, didn't break the moment. Instead, they stayed, sat side by side near the stage talking quietly, about music, about Earth, about food, about nothing and everything. At one point, Seraphine leaned slightly against him, just a little, like testing if it was allowed. Everett didn't move away, didn't make a big deal of it. He just stayed, and that was enough. Above them. From a quiet observation point, Captain Darren stood with his arms crossed. "Guitar," he murmured. A crew member beside him blinked. "Sir?" Darren smirked slightly. Didn't even need to tell him that one. Back in the hall, Seraphine glanced up at Everett. "Play for me again sometime?" He smiled. "Anytime." Her tail curled lightly around his arm again. "Good." Part 3. The space between words. The kitchen was quieter than usual. Not empty, never empty, but softer. The rush had passed, leaving behind the steady rhythm of low flames, distant clatter, and the hum of a ship at peace. Everett sat on the stool, his stool, or theirs. He leaned forward slightly, elbows resting on his knees, absent-mindedly spinning a small tool between his fingers. He wasn't working. He wasn't even pretending to. He was waiting. Seraphine noticed the moment she stepped back into the main kitchen. Of course she did. Her ears flicked toward him before her eyes even followed. "You're early," she said, walking over, wiping her hands on a cloth. Everett glanced up, smiling. "Or you're late." "I'm never late." "Then I must be early." She huffed softly, though her tail gave a small, amused sway. There was a pause. A different kind of pause. Not awkward, just aware. Seraphine looked at the stool, then at him. Then, without saying a word, she walked off. Everett blinked. "Okay?" A few seconds later, she came back, carrying another stool. It wasn't identical, slightly shorter, a little worn, but close enough. She set it down next to his. "Inspection station expansion," she said casually. Everett's smile grew, slow and genuine. "Seems official." She sat, closer than usual, not touching, but close enough that he could feel the warmth from her shoulder. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The kitchen noise filled the space for them. "Then I've been thinking," Seraphine said quietly. "That's usually dangerous." "Everett." "Sorry, go on." Her ears dipped slightly, but she didn't look away this time. "About what you said, the other day." He stilled. "Oh, no one's ever done that before," she continued. "Not like that." Her hands rested in her lap, fingers loosely intertwined. "I've had people be kind," she said, polite, professional. A small pause, "but not that." Everett looked down briefly, then back at her. "I didn't do anything special." She turned her head, meeting his eyes. "You stood in front of 2,000 people," she said softly, "and told them I mattered." He opened his mouth, closed it again, because there wasn't a way to downplay that without lying. "You do matter," he said instead. Simple, honest. Her tail moved slowly behind her, not fast, not playful, just present. "You make it sound easy," she said. "It should be." "It isn't." "I know." That surprised her. "You do?" Everett leaned back slightly, exhaling. "Humans aren't exactly known for getting along with everyone either," he said. "Different planets, different cultures, even we find reasons to divide ourselves." He glanced at her. "But we're also really stubborn about the opposite." "The opposite? Yeah." A small smile. "When we decide someone matters, we don't back off." Seraphine's ears lifted slightly. "That sounds intense." "Yeah," he admitted. "We can be a lot." Her lips curved faintly. "I've noticed." Another quiet settled between them, but this one felt heavier, full, like something was building. "Why me?" she asked suddenly. Everett blinked. "What?" She didn't look away this time. "You could sit anywhere, talk to anyone. There are a lot of people on this ship." A small pause. "Why do you keep coming back here?" The question hung in the air. Not insecure, not fragile, just real. Everett didn't answer right away. Not because he didn't know, because he wanted to get it right. "Because it's you," he said finally. Her breath caught, just slightly. He leaned forward, resting his arms on his knees again, closer to her level. "You're real," he continued. "You don't pretend. You don't hold back when something matters to you." His voice softened. "And when you smile, like really smile, it's like the whole room changes." Seraphine's ears lowered slowly, not in fear, in vulnerability. "Everett." "And," he added, a little more quietly, "I like how your tail gives you away." That pulled a small, shaky laugh out of her. "It does not. It absolutely does. It's doing it now, isn't it? Yep, she groaned softly, covering part of her face with one hand. I knew it. Everett reached out, then hesitated, just for a second, long enough for it to matter. Then gently, he took her hand. Seraphine froze, not pulling away, just still. Her eyes dropped to where their hands met. His grip wasn't tight, wasn't possessive, just there, warm, steady. You're doing it again, she whispered. Doing what? Being like this. He tilted his head slightly. Like what? Close. There was no accusation in it, only awareness. Everett didn't let go. Do you want me to stop? The question was immediate, clear, no pressure. Seraphine's fingers tightened slightly around his, her tail wrapped gently around the base of his stool, then shifted and brushed lightly against his leg. No, she said softly. The air changed, subtle but undeniable. They were closer now, not just physically. Something had shifted between them, opened. Seraphine looked up at him, really looked. I don't want this to go away, she admitted quietly. Everett's chest tightened. It won't. You don't know that. I don't, he said, but I know I'm not going anywhere. Her ears trembled slightly. 6 months isn't forever. No, he said. A small pause, but it's a start. That did it. That was the moment. Seraphine moved first. Just slightly, leaning in, careful, like approaching something fragile. Everett didn't move away, didn't rush forward either. He met her halfway, their foreheads almost touched, her breath was warm. You're really bad at subtle, she whispered. He smiled faintly. Runs in the family. Your uncle? Absolutely. A soft breath of laughter between them. Then she closed the distance. The kiss was gentle, not rushed, not overwhelming, just soft, warm, real. For a moment, the entire ship could have disappeared, and neither of them would have noticed. When they pulled back, it wasn't far, just enough to look at each other. Seraphine's ears were low, her cheeks flushed, her eyes glowing softly. That was, she started. Yeah, Everett said quietly. Yeah. Her tail curled around his leg again. This time, she didn't even try to hide it. They stayed like that for a while, sitting side by side, hands still loosely together, not saying much, because they didn't need to. Somewhere above Captain Darren stood at a viewing panel again, arms crossed, watching. A crew member beside him squinted slightly. Was that? Yes, Darren said calmly. Should we? No. A small, satisfied smile formed. Absolutely not. Back in the kitchen, Seraphine leaned lightly against Everett's shoulder. You're not allowed to leave that stool anymore, she murmured. He chuckled softly. I think I can manage that. Her tail flicked once, content, certain. Good. Part 4. What we choose to keep. The kitchen was quieter than usual, not because there was less work, but because, for once, Seraphine had made it quieter. Out, she had told the staff earlier, gently but firmly. I'll handle the rest tonight. They knew better than to argue. Everett stepped through the doors, already smiling. Let me guess, he said, glancing around the mostly empty space. Critical inspection? Seraphine didn't look up from the counter. Very critical. He walked over, taking his usual seat, then paused. Wait. There were 2 stools, side by side, already set. He sat. This is starting to feel official. It is, she said simply. Spread across the counter were ingredients he didn't immediately recognize. Some familiar, some definitely not. What are we making? He asked. Seraphine finally looked at him, her expression softer than usual. Something important. That got his full attention. Cooking together. Come here, she said, nodding beside her. Everett stood and stepped up next to her. Close, comfortable. She handed him a knife. Careful, she added. That one's sharper than it looks. He smirked. I work with plasma cutters. This is still sharper. Noted. They worked together in a rhythm that felt surprisingly natural. She guided. He followed at first, then adapted, adjusted, matched her pace. Not too thick, she said, watching him slice. Like this. She leaned closer, gently adjusting his hand. Like that. Her fingers lingered a second longer than necessary, neither of them commented. The kitchen filled with warmth, not just from the stove, but from them. This dish, Seraphine said after a while, is from my home. Everett glanced at her. Vulpine World? She nodded. It's usually made for important moments. He slowed slightly. Like what? A small pause. Family, she said. Commitment, choosing someone. Everett's chest tightened just slightly. He didn't interrupt. My mother taught me, she continued quietly, before I left. You don't talk about home much, he said gently. No. A beat. Because I didn't leave on good terms. He set the knife down, not out of discomfort, Out of respect. They didn't like that I wanted to cook for other species, she said. Said it was beneath me, that I should stay within expectations. Her ears lowered slightly. I didn't want that. No, Everett said softly. I can't see you settling for that. A faint smile touched her lips. I didn't, so I left. And came here. And came here. She stirred the pot slowly. I told myself it was enough, that having a place where I was accepted was enough. She glanced at him. Then you showed up. Everett let out a quiet breath. Yeah, I did. Everett's turn. He leaned back slightly against the counter. My Aunt Lily, he said. Seraphine's ears lifted a little. Your uncle mentioned her. She was, he smiled faintly, the kindest person I've ever known. His voice softened. She used to play old music around the house, said it made the world feel slower, easier. Seraphine listened quietly. When she passed, he paused, swallowing slightly. Things got quiet. She reached for his hand, this time without hesitation. I think, Everett continued, I've been trying to find that feeling again. He looked at her, and I did. Seraphine's tail wrapped gently around his arm, not playful, not shy. Certain. The realization. They finished cooking together, plated the dish, sat side by side on their stools to eat. Everett took a bite, closed his eyes. Yeah, he said quietly, that's something special. Seraphine watched him, softer than she had ever been. Good. Silence followed, but it wasn't empty. It was full of everything they hadn't said yet. Everett set his fork down. I don't want to leave. Seraphine stilled. What? When the 6 months are up, he said, I don't want to go back. Her breath caught. Everett, I've been thinking about it, he continued. A lot. He turned toward her fully. This ship, this life, you. A small pause. This feels more like home than anywhere else has in a long time. Her eyes shimmered slightly. You'd stay? Permanently? He nodded. If they'll have me. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. Her arms wrapped around him instead, tight. Stay, she whispered. The proposal later. After the kitchen had gone quiet again, after the moment had settled, Everett reached into his pocket. Seraphine noticed immediately. What are you doing? He exhaled once, steadying himself. Then, he turned toward her. Seraphine, he said. Her ears lifted. Her tail stilled. I don't have anything fancy planned, he admitted. No big speech. A small, nervous smile. But I know how I feel. He took her hands, both of them. You make everything feel right, he said. Like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Her eyes softened. So, he swallowed lightly, will you marry me? Time stopped, just for a second. Then, yes, she said. No hesitation, no doubt. Just, yes. He laughed softly, relief and joy mixing together. She pulled him into a kiss. Warmer this time, stronger, certain. Captain Darren, the next day, Everett stood before Captain Darren. You're serious, Darren said. Yes, sir. Permanent crew? Yes, sir. Darren studied him for a moment, then smiled. About time, Everett hesitated. There's something else. Oh. The rings later that evening, Darren stood with Everett in his private quarters. From a small case, the captain pulled out 2 rings. Simple, elegant, worn but cared for. These were Lily's, Darren said quietly. Everett froze. Uncle, I don't need them anymore, Darren said. I've got plenty of memories to hold on to. He placed them in Everett's hand. She would have loved her. Everett's throat tightened. Lily would be proud of your decision, Darren added softly. The ceremony. The ballroom had never looked more beautiful. Soft lights, flowing fabrics, guests from across the ship gathered, not just as passengers, but as witnesses, as family. Seraphine stood at the far end. Dressed in elegant white with subtle gold accents, her tail wrapped gracefully behind her, her ears steady, her eyes glowing. Everett stood opposite, heart pounding. Captain Darren stood between them, not as a captain, but as family. We gather here, Darren began. Not because of duty, his voice carried through the room, but because 2 people chose each other. Everett and Seraphine held hands, tightly, across worlds, across differences, across everything that could have kept them apart. Darren smiled slightly. They didn't. He nodded to Everett. Everett slipped the ring onto Seraphine's finger, his hand steady. She did the same for him, her touch gentle, certain. By the authority entrusted in me, Darren said, voice warm, and as someone who has watched this from the very beginning. A small glance, a knowing one. I now pronounce you husband and wife. Everett didn't wait. Neither did she. They kissed. In front of everyone, and the room erupted. After, later that night, back in the kitchen, 2 stools sat side by side. Everett leaned back slightly. "So," he said, "Mrs. Wyman?" Seraphine smiled, leaning against him. "I think I like the sound of that." Her tail curled around him. Warm, certain, home. Epilogue. The life they built. A few months after the wedding, the darling siren felt different. Not in structure, not in sound, but in feeling. The kitchen still bustled, steam still curled into the air. Orders still flew, dishes still clattered in organized chaos, but now there were two constants at the center of it. "Careful," Seraphine said, pointing lightly with a wooden spoon. "You're about to burn that." "I am not." The pan sizzled a little too aggressively. "Okay, maybe a little." Seraphine smiled, stepping in beside him, adjusting the heat with practiced ease. "You fix engines," she said. "Let me fix the food." Everett grinned. "Hey, I've improved." "You have," she admitted. "Slightly." Two stools sat side by side, worn now, familiar, occupied whenever they had even a moment to breathe. Everett leaned back on his stool, watching her work, not like before. Not with awe alone, but with something deeper. Pride, belonging. "You're staring again," she said. "I'm married. I'm allowed." She huffed softly, though her tail flicked happily behind her. "I suppose I did agree to that. Ship life." Everett had become a permanent fixture aboard the darling siren. The crew trusted him, the passengers appreciated him, and the engines loved him. "Stabilizers are running smoother than I've ever seen," one technician remarked. Everett smirked. "They behave when you treat them right." "You're talking about them like they're alive again." "They are alive," Everett said, "just louder." Captain Darren watched it all with quiet satisfaction, from the engine reports, to the kitchen traffic, to the way two specific people always seemed to find their way back to the same place. "Told you this would work," he muttered to himself one day. A nearby crew member blinked. "Sir?" "Nothing." The change Seraphine noticed first. Of course she did. It started small, a little more tired than usual, a little quieter, a little different. "Sit," Everett said one day, gently guiding her toward the stool. "I'm fine." "You're not fine. You almost salted the same dish twice." She paused. "I did, didn't I?" "You did." A day later, she confirmed it. Everett stood in their quarters as she turned toward him, her expression soft, her eyes glowing just a little brighter. "Everett." Something in her voice made his chest tighten. "Yeah?" She took a small step closer. "We're going to have a family." Silence for 1 second. 2. "Wait," he said, blinking. "You mean?" She nodded. And that was it. Everett laughed. Actually laughed. Full, unrestrained, almost disbelieving joy. "Really?" "Really." He pulled her into a hug. Careful, but tight. "That's..." He shook his head slightly, smiling like he didn't know what to do with himself. "That's amazing." Her arms wrapped around him, her tail curled around his side. "There's more," she added softly. He blinked again. "More?" She hesitated just slightly, then smiled. "Vulpines don't usually have just one." Everett froze. "Define don't usually." Her ears tilted playfully. "Up to 4." He stared at her. "Up to..." A pause, then, "How many?" She held up 3 fingers. Silence. 3, Everett repeated. 3. He blinked again. Then laughed. Again. Okay, yeah, we can do that. That's good. He stopped, looked at her. Really looked at her. "That's perfect." Captain Darren's reaction. Captain Darren was mid-report when Everett burst into his office. "Captain!" Darren didn't even look up. "If this is about the thermal regulators, we're having 3. Pause. Darren slowly looked up. "I'm sorry?" 3, Everett repeated, grinning like a man who had lost all sense of calm. "Kids, we're having 3 kids." Silence. Then Darren stood. 3. 3. A slow smile spread across the captain's face. "Lily would have loved this." Everett's grin softened. "Yeah," he said quietly. "She would have." Darren stepped forward, placing a firm hand on Everett's shoulder. "You're going to be a good father." Everett let out a small breath. "I hope so. You will be." The months that followed. The ship adjusted. Naturally, quietly. Seraphine worked less, directed more. The kitchen adapted around her, protected her space without making it feel like she needed protection. Everett became attentive, not overbearing, but present, always nearby when he could be, always checking subtly. "Sit," he'd say. "I just sat. Sit again, sit again." "Yeah, but I'm consistent." Her tail stayed wrapped around him more often now, not just out of affection, but instinct. The future in motion. One quiet evening, the kitchen dimmed, work done, staff gone. 2 stools, side by side. Seraphine sat, one hand resting lightly over her stomach, Everett beside her a little closer than usual. "What do you think they'll be like?" he asked. She smiled softly. "A little of both of us. Hopefully your cooking. Hopefully your patience." "You think I have patience?" She gave him a look. "You sat on that stool every day just to be near me." He paused. "Okay, fair." Her tail curled around him again, warm, familiar. "I think," she said quietly, "they'll be strong." Everett nodded. "Yeah." A small pause. Then he added, "And stubborn." She laughed softly. "Definitely yours." They sat there for a while, not saying much, just being. The ship hummed around them, steady, endless, home, the day everything changed again. The Darling siren had seen emergencies before, system failures, medical crises, even the occasional passenger panic. But this was different. "Captain," a crew member said quickly, trying not to smile too much, "it's time." Captain Darren didn't even pretend to stay calm. "Clear the medical wing," he ordered immediately. "Authorized personnel only." He was already moving. Outside the room, Everett paced, back and forth, again and again. "Sit down," Darren said. "I can't sit down." "You can, there are chairs." "I know there are chairs." "Then use one." "I can't." Darren watched him for a moment, then smiled faintly. "You remind me of your father." Everett stopped pacing just long enough to blink. "That's not helping." From inside the room, a sound, Seraphine's voice, strained but strong. Everett turned toward the door immediately. "She's okay, right?" Darren's voice softened. "She's strong, stronger than you think." Everett nodded, then resumed pacing. Inside, Seraphine held on, breathing steady, focused, her ears low, her tail curled tightly around her side. A medical attendant spoke calmly. "You're doing perfectly, Seraphine. Just a little more." She exhaled, gripping the side of the bed. "He better be pacing," she muttered under her breath. The first cry then, it happened. A cry filled the room, sharp, new, alive, outside. Everett froze. "Was that?" Darren's smile widened. "That's one." Another cry followed. Then, a third. Everett stared at the door like it might disappear. "Three," he whispered. Meeting them. When they finally let him in, Everett stepped carefully, like the floor might give way if he moved too fast. Seraphine looked exhausted, but radiant, her eyes soft, her tail relaxed now. "Hey," she said quietly. Everett swallowed hard. "Hey." He stepped closer and saw them. 3 small bundles, wrapped carefully, moving slightly. "Can I?" he asked, almost afraid. Seraphine smiled. "You'd better." He reached down, carefully lifting one. The child was tiny, soft, with faint fox ears just beginning to show, dark hair, and, when their eyes opened, a faint amber glow. Everett's breath caught. "Hi there," he whispered. He looked at the other 2, one with more human features, rounder face, softer ears, another with a slightly fluffier tail already twitching. "They're perfect," he said. Seraphine watched him, her expression full, complete. "We did that," she said softly. Everett looked at her. "Yeah," he said. "We did." Captain Darren stepped in quietly, slower this time, more careful. He looked at the 3 children, then at Everett, then at Seraphine. "This ship just got a lot louder," he said. Seraphine smiled tiredly. "You have no idea." Darren stepped closer, his voice softer now. "Lily would be proud of this, too." Everett nodded, eyes still on the children. "Yeah." 6 years later, the Darling siren was louder now, not chaotic, not out of control, but filled with something new. Laughter. "Don't touch that," Everett called out across the engine room, too late. A small voice giggled. "I didn't break it." "You definitely broke it." "I made it better." Everett sighed, crouching down next to the panel. "You crossed 3 wires." "I was experimenting," the child said proudly. "This one, Kale, curious, restless, definitely Everett's." "You're 6, Everett said. "I'm advanced." "You're grounded." "The kitchen." "Mom, can I help?" another voice asked. Seraphine looked down, smiling. "You already are." "This one, Lyra, careful, focused, already holding a small knife properly." "Not too thick," Seraphine reminded gently. "I know," Lyra said, "like this." "Perfect." A tail wrapped lightly around Seraphine's leg, the third, Sori, quieter, more observant. But when she smiled, it lit up the entire room. "Dad's coming," Sori said softly. A second later, Everett walked in. "How did you?" Sori just smiled. Family life on the ship, the crew adored them, every last one. "Captain," a crew member said one day, watching the 3 run past. "We've been boarded." Darren glanced over. "By what?" "Small, unstoppable forces." Darren smiled. "Let them." The stools, they were still there. A little more worn, a little more scratched. Now sometimes occupied by 3 smaller versions, swinging their legs, asking too many questions. So you just sat here? Kale asked. Every day, Everett said. Why? Seraphine glanced at Everett. He smiled. Because I didn't want to be anywhere else. Lyra nodded like that made perfect sense. Sori leaned against Seraphine. Kale just shrugged. Okay. Later that night, the kids were asleep. Finally, Everett and Seraphine sat on the stools again, just the two of them. We did good, Everett said quietly. Seraphine leaned against him, her tail curling around him like it always had. We did more than that. He smiled. Yeah, the ship hummed. Steady, endless. And in the middle of it, a kitchen, 2 stools, a life built from small moments and everything that came after.